Hello, hello. It's episode 4 of Sound Advice. Get year 1 in business right. Brought to you by Sage. I'm your host, Bex Byrne-Callender, and it's a pleasure to be back this week, sharing some incredible advice from another top entrepreneur. I know I've said it before, but Sound Advice is here to give you the insight and support you need to grow your business. We do that by scouring the land for the business owners that are truly at the top of their game or well on their way there. They are sharing the highs, lows, and the lessons learned so that your journey can be that bit easier. We're collating a whole world of resources for you too over at sage.com/podcast. So do take a look, and you can share your own stories, advice or questions with us on Twitter at SageUK using the hashtag SoundAdvicePodcast. But on with the show. If you want to know how to create a super successful side hustle, I have just the man for you. I am joined by the excellent Mathew Porter, co-founder of VASO. His company makes the nifty glass straws that are saving the turtles from plastic waste one sip at a time. He's built this fast growth startup while holding down a full-time job. Welcome, Matt.
No problem. Pleasure to be here.
Do you want to just tell me how you ended up starting a glass straw business? Because you're not in glass straws in your day job, are you?
So it initially started from a chance encounter with a family friend a couple of Christmases ago, who had been to see a business associate of theirs in Germany. And that company happened to have initially started manufacturing glass straws. So the family friend had some with him. So me being me and my background, I initially just had a look at what potential scope there was to set up a business related to bring the glass straws to market in the UK. At that time, there was only one potential competitor, and their product was not as superior product as what we could potentially bring to market. So from that stage on, I secured things like the domain name. We managed to get glassstraw.co.uk, which is perfect. I also looked at the search volumes and could see that there was some search intent within the UK. So all the early signs were there that there was a potential market. And over the course of a year, we gradually got hold of stock and product packaging and everything else that we needed to bring product to market.
You make it sound so easy, and I'm going to badger you with about 101 questions about all the various elements in that story, but I wanted to start with you saying me being me. So does that mean this isn't your first rodeo? Have you started lots of sort of side hustles or full-time job businesses? What's your background?
Yeah, so over the past 5 years, I've had a couple of small side hustles that I've started doing various bits and pieces. So one of those was buying and selling retro consoles, which is just came about from a sort of pet passion of mine. Keen video gamer, and always seemed to acquire lots of extra games and consoles, and always had a need to downsize the collection that I had. So because of my background in online marketing, it was a no-brainer and a simple task for myself to set up an online store and sort of sell lots of the consoles and games that I didn't require anymore over the internet. And again, I've worked in many businesses prior to my online marketing business where they've been e-commerce retailers. So having a sort of knowledge of all the things that need to go into place in terms of supply chain, the marketing, the web experience, the customer services side, and the whole package have all sort of lent themselves to various side hustles that I've had over the years.
That's really interesting. So do you think that e-commerce experience was really crucial to making VASO a success? Could you have kind of started with a blank sheet and learned it all as you went along?
I think there's always scope. I mean, with our client base, there are lots of clients that initially started themselves with, you know, a really basic web presence and sort of built things up to a stage where they needed help, and then looked for more professional solutions to the website and their online marketing. But probably with VASO, the fact that I had that skill set allowed us to come to market, because with such a small budget that we had, the majority of that had to go on securing stock. So having skills that I could, with the only factor of my own time, come to market and launch the website, and do various bits and pieces of online marketing, brand exposure, and various other things related to the marketing. We just wouldn't have been able to do that, because the budget wouldn't have been there to deliver an experience that we have. It would have been a much lessened one, and we would have made shorter inroads in the same amount of time, just because budget would have been such a big factor.
So if you weren't having to pay for the digital marketing and for the website build, because you knew all of that, how much would it, do you mind if I ask you this very personal question, how much does it take to start up a business like VASO? How much did you have in the bank for that?
Yeah, so to put into perspective, maybe a e-commerce build from an agency, of a decent reputation, you could be looking anywhere from 15 to 30 grand, just for the web build. And then off the back of that, you need budget for the actual online marketing. So if you were looking at PPC as a sales channel, spend can be anywhere depending on, a variety of factors. But for the glass straws, it could quite easily have been a spend of £1,000 a month budget. And then obviously the management costs on top of that could be anywhere from, £500 to thousands of pounds, obviously depending on the scale of the actual paid marketing. And then in terms of the organic side, so the SEO, again, you're looking at a budget of thousands to a reputable agency to actually gain enough traction where you'd get some return from it. So, let's say a budget of 50k for your initial build and for the first 12 months is, something that is a realistic figure.
That is so much money for a startup. But does that mean that, so how much money did you need to start? Because you needed to buy stock, but you saved on all the other stuff. But how much did you have in the pot?
So initially we had £4,000, and all of that went on product manufacture, so the product itself, and then product packaging, and then no other funds were spent elsewhere. It was all skills that myself and other partners within VASO had that we could utilise. And one of the things that all of the partners within the business see is that their free time is a free commodity. And I think that's a great way to look at things when starting a business or a side hustle. You're always going to lose some of your own free time. So knowing that you may sacrifice a little bit of your time spent with family or on downtime, but that investment is, you can't put a price on that. Whereas lots of bigger companies that may already be in a certain sector that you're launching a business in, they obviously time is a paid commodity for them. They're paying staff members, etc., or agencies for various bits and pieces. So that's one thing that a small business can sort of harness over what established businesses have to pay for.
And that's the beauty of the side hustle element, right? Because you've got a day job that pays the bills.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stress about kind of putting food on the table at the end of the month, and you can use your free time for something that doesn't make money.
Yeah, exactly that.
In the beginning.
Of course. I mean, everyone's end game's to make money at the end of the day, but that's the beauty of a side hustle, or whether it's trying to establish a startup while still working full time, is there's not that risk in terms of you have to make it work to put food on the table. So with that, sometimes you may get a little bit complacent, But I think at the end of the day, if you've got enough of a drive and passion behind something, and the signs are there that it's got legs, then you'll always, take those sacrifices and put the time in to try and make it a success.
And Matt, can you talk me through how you went from the ideation stage through to actually creating the products and finding the packaging? Because presumably you were kind of doing all those things from scratch, especially with the packaging, because I'm sure not that many companies are trying to box up glass straws, so there's not something off the shelf that you could use.
Yeah, exactly that. So in terms of the product, that was, almost a product that was available to us, but the manufacturer, that one of our partners has a relationship with, were not keen to bring to the consumer market. So obviously we could see that there was already consumer search, and that in the UK there weren't many others that were serving that consumer market. So, that sort of phase of things was more down to negotiating costs, and making sure that we can work to a pricing to the consumer that would work and that offers the consumer value for money, whilst we can still make the margins. But as you mentioned, the product packaging that had its challenges. All of us involved in the business had never really had much experience with that. So approaching companies, we really had not a stonewall, but we had difficulties even getting packaging manufacturers to actually speak to us and take us seriously. A lot of the time, lots of the packaging manufacturers had questions related to volumes, but we also had counter questions that would answer those questions. So to every question of what volume do you need, our counter question was, well, what are the costs going to be? Because we obviously had a budget, but wanted to get as much packaging for that budget to sort of maximise our margins. Because with anything, the higher volume you can purchase, the pricing always reflects that. So the higher the volume, the lower the cost generally are per unit. So eventually we found a great partner to work with, that were fully understanding as to the product, and how we wanted the packaging. And then together we managed to design a product packaging that worked for us. The other side to that is, again, going back to the actual design of the packaging itself in terms of the artwork for the packaging. My background also is in graphic design. So, and I could do that, which reduced costs, that allowed us to buy more of the actual carton units themselves and dilute that cost further. Again, bringing savings to the consumer, and helping us retain further margins as well.
You are such a useful man to have around. There's all these strings to your bow. You said something really interesting earlier about how sometimes side hustles can lose momentum because you're not under that pressure to make money from them. And it does seem like a lot of people who kind of have little ventures on the side, often they do kind of peter out. So I'm just curious whether the fact that you were able to use all these skills, and that was quite rewarding, ended up being one of the reasons why you put so much into it and why it's become so successful.
Yeah, maybe it was the engagement, and being able, like I say, being able to use some of the skill sets that maybe I've not neglected to use, but just not had the opportunity to, because at the end of the day, I'm only using the skills that I can, that clients need during the day. So yeah, maybe that's what really kept me engaged in this project. And I think also the timing, again, worked in my favour. I had a lot more free time where I had the time to spend and put my energy into something. But I think ultimately, if you've got a passion for what you're actually trying to achieve in terms of the business, then you'll always make that time, and enjoy dedicating that time to making something happen.
I'd love to talk a bit more about that question of timing as well, because can you tell us a little bit about why now is the best time to be launching a glass straw? Because there's a lot of pressures out there right now and a big change in how consumers are looking at things like plastic straws. Do you want to just sum up kind of what the perfect storm was behind you launching this product?
Yeah, so initially the initial factors were the fact that there was very little competition within the UK. So there were one or two other brands that were producing glass straws at the time. And the biggest factor that I could see over that was I believe we could bring a better product in terms of the actual glass and the structure of the actual straws than what they were offering. So, there was a gap in the market, first of all. Second of all, I could see the data that was available in various tool sets for the online search, that there was an emergence of a potential market there that was showing, some growth of 100% month on month. Despite it only being small numbers, you can see that big growth and the potential that there was.
Where did you go looking for that data? Was it just kind of in Google looking at searches, or where should a startup owner go and look for that kind of data to see what the demand is likely to be? Where do they go and look for that?
Yeah, so there's quite a few free tools offered by Google. Within the Google Ads platform, there's the Google Keyword Planner. So you essentially just place in some keywords, whatever your products or services might be, and then it can give you historical metrics for up to 2 or 3 years data, and you can see the growth on a monthly basis for that search. There's also the Google's Trend tool, which again works in a similar fashion, but again that sort of doesn't give you search volumes, that gives you interest on a score rating of 100, so you can see the actual interest volumes rated out of 100 that there have been over again a time period of I believe up to 5 years on that, maybe even longer. And like I say, they're free tools that are there, and Google's got so much data, it's the best place to look for that information.
And your point about your straws being better than the other ones on the market, what does better mean? Are they stronger, easier to clean? Because you need to have that differentiator, don't you? You can't just bring out the same old. It has to be just a little improvement or a big improvement on what people can get already.
Yeah, so the products that were out there, we're either using a hand blown glass, so weren't as strong as the glass that we were proposing to use. There was another competitor that was using borosilicate, which is used in Pyrex products. So the only downside to that glass is that it generally can't be recycled because of the borosilicate in the glass. So the product that we were going to bring to market was manufactured from a soda lime glass, which has all the heat benefits that Pyrex and borosilicate glass has. It also has the same level of strength that has, but it can be fully recyclable. So the old idea behind the glass straws is that from product to packaging, everything is fully recyclable. So it's a closed loop ecosystem.
And those green credentials, I mean, they're vital to the people buying your straws, because they're only buying glass straws because they want to save the planet and they want to do the right thing by the environment. So I can see that would be a real winning feature to be able to talk about.
That's another factor to it. There's tremendous growth within this sector. So the sustainability and sustainable product sector that throughout this year sort of snowballed. There's been huge growth. So lots more companies are really trying to jump on and be more sustainable, whether it's packaging for general household products or whether it's new products that are coming to market. There's huge growth in that sector. So again, it's sort of been a bit of a perfect storm of us launching our products and just what's been happening throughout the course of the last 12 months.
And Matt, at the beginning of our chat, you said that one of the best things about starting a new business when you have all the skills that you do means that you can kind of work for free for a bit. Are you still working for free? And if not, when did you decide to start paying yourself, and what different things had to be in place in order for that to happen?
Yeah, so at the moment, we technically are, because we're just reinvesting all of the funds that, all of the profits that we are making, because, we can really see that this potential for huge growth. So at the moment we're leaving money in the bank, which is a great thing to be doing, and then reinvesting the majority of it when and where we can. One thing that we found when we initially launched, we managed to time it right to attend a few food festivals and big shows at Birmingham NEC, and what they aided us to do was to sort of kickstart sales, but it also allowed us to get a lot of feedback on the products, and we quickly saw that those shows were really profitable for us. So a lot of the money, the profits that we have been making, we've been reinvesting to book those shows for when and where we can. So we can really see that getting in front of consumers that aren't aware of the products really just helps in a variety of ways.
How do you find these shows, and how do you pinpoint which ones are likely to have the biggest impact, going to be best for the business?
Yeah, so our initial thought process was to attend food and drink festivals because the product lends itself so much to that sector. But what we tended to find was that the scale of a lot of those that were available to us just when we launched, there were smaller scale shows, but they were still great in terms of being profitable. We just obviously didn't do huge volume. But the actual feedback, getting in front of consumers, again, like I say, awareness, but getting the feedback from a consumer, whereas online, someone's probably found your site, from the most part, with the intent to purchasing your product. So they've done a search for glass straws because their intent is to purchase it. Whereas at the shows, you've got lots of people that aren't there with any intent. They're there to enjoy the festival. So getting to speak to those people who may not have been aware of the product, talking through the product and converting, and then also getting feedback as to people's thoughts on the product, how they feel things could have been done in a better way, or even the uses or reasons why they would want a reusable straw over a disposable straw. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that always comes up, is that people have got a real disdain for the paper straws.
Well, they're awful, aren't they? They just fall apart in your mouth and you end up kind of spitting out bits of paper.
Yeah, exactly that. And if you're having something like a milkshake, they've not got the stability for you to use it as its primary function as a straw. So again, that's lent itself into the growth of the business throughout the year. In October 2020, there was actual legislation passed within the UK to ban the use of single-use plastic straws. So again, the perfect storm of timing of coming to market at the end of 2019, again has lent itself to that coming into place. And again, like I say, the disposable solutions that are out there again has helped our growth, and again, maybe even the growth of the sustainability sector.
I love the insights about how you get consumers excited about the product. But when I had a little noodle around on your website, I also saw that you have some kind of big names, like amazing testimonials from some quite big brands. How did they come about? Did you just have to send out a bunch of freebies, or is it just luck? Or, are you friends with top food bloggers? How did it happen?
I wish I was, because that would make my life easier in the digital marketing sort of sector. But lots of the various techniques that we employ for our client base and for digital PR, sort of, again, I sort of put those into practice to gain those relationships and build those, and then craft the opportunities from there. For instance, the Daily Mail feature, that was just chance. We just got an email of someone that happened to be producing an article on reusable straws at the time, and again, we quite happily obliged and sent out some free samples for that test and feature in that article. So it's, like I say, sometimes a little bit of luck, and sometimes trying to get your products in front of people. And at the end of the day, that's key takeaway for any startup is if you can put your time to approaching various, whether it's bloggers, websites, newspapers, whatever it may be, putting the legwork in to find out who key people within those sites or businesses or newspapers are, and approaching them. Even if it falls on deaf ears, it may be the case that email, when they're producing an article, pops into their mind, and then they approach you 12 months down the line. If it leads to something that can give your brand exposure when you've got zero, then it's a great thing.
So you mentioned that your manufacturer's in Germany. We're obviously on the verge of Brexit right now when we're recording this interview. How have you made sure your supply chain can withstand that? Have you been bulk buying in advance? I'd love to know how a small business prepares.
As it stands, with how the market is, we can probably see through maybe 2 years of current level of sales with the stockpile that we have. But again, like I say, I don't know if there was much forethought in that. It was more of we maximised the actual funds that we had available and secured as much stock at the time.
Where are all these straws? Are you sitting on them? Are they like all over your house, or do you have special warehousing, or how are you storing all these things?
Fortunately, because I've got the relationship through my other business of our business premises, we were able to secure a small premises for all of our products. So don't get me wrong, there are stores stacked up in various members of the businesses, garages and things. But we do have premises that we're able to store all the stores. The beauty of it is they're a relatively small product, so we don't need much space to keep the stockpile safe.
And who does like the packaging and sending them off? Is that all you guys, kind of orders come in and jump in the car and put the straws in the boxes? Are you still doing all of that, or is that nicely outsourced now?
No, at the moment we are. One of the members of the team is fulfilling orders. I mean, this lends itself to the difference between your powerhouses like someone like Amazon. They've got this behemoth of a business and supply chain and delivery network and everything else. As a small business, consumers expect the same level of service that these big businesses deliver. So if it's the case of your time and using your time to try and deliver that service, you've got to, because consumers expect that same level of service. The benefit to a small business is that you can tend to be a bit more flexible, because it's your time. You've not got thousands of staff that you're paying that are under various pressures to fulfill orders and various other bits. You can just, at the drop of a hat, run to the post office and get orders out the same day. Whereas if a large business is under quite a lot of demand, it might be the next day, So that's where the benefits of a small business and the flexibility that you may have can give you an edge over bigger businesses.
But you said you've got enough stock to keep selling if levels remain the same for the next 2 years. But what if this becomes like an international best-selling product? How big could VASO get? And can you ever imagine it taking over being your primary role as opposed to the side hustle?
Maybe it will. As it stands, we've seen huge growth. All the data sets that I keep an eye on, again, are sort of still growing at exponential levels, 50%, 100% growth per month throughout this year. So there's potential there. And like I say, with the sustainable product market, it seems to really be in its infancy. So providing you can last out the early stages and really sort of stamp your authority and grow your brand exposure during those early years, then you've almost got a leg up over the competition that may come to market at a later stage. Hopefully one day it will become a primary business and a primary focus. But at the minute, like I say, it's seeing growth, and that's good enough for me at the moment.
And how are you going to see off that competition? Because presumably another manufacturer could see your success and try and replicate most of what you're doing, including your kind of secret recipe for a better straw. What are you doing to make sure that it's your brand that's resonating with consumers?
Yeah, again, boiling down to the brand association with the products, we're in at the ground level. So my primary focus for this year has been to sort of grow the brand and the exposure that it's getting, so that, you know, if more competition come to market with, whether it's a similar product or an inferior or maybe even a superior product at some stage, that there's reason consumers are gonna sort of go for your brand, and that the brand's gonna have that exposure, so that you can potentially fight off any competition that does come your way.
Because are you hoping that someone's going to walk into a really upmarket bar and instead of saying, I'd like a straw, to be like, can I have a VASO, please?
Yeah, as any marketer would, you know, that's what I'd like. Unfortunately, just with the past year, obviously the B2B side of the business that we foresaw being there, you know, just hasn't quite happened. But that's not to say that we haven't seen some growth in that side. There are a few hotels that we supply our straws to, whether that's our own branded or branded straws with the hotel or the bar's own branding on. You know, we've got facility to be able to do that. So again, that's potentially something that the competition wouldn't be able to offer, that we can. So again, as many sort of benefits and differentiators that we can offer early doors, we've really tried to get those in place, so that the more competition that potentially does come to market, you know, we've already got those differentiators over them, or additional benefits that we can add to consumers.
You said at the beginning of this chat that you have to put in a lot of time and effort, and I just want to know how many hours a week you spend on VASO, and whether, you know, there is a specific number of hours that you actually need to plumb into your new business to make it a success.
At the moment, I'd say between 5 to 10 hours a week of my own time, whether that's evenings or weekends. I'll personally put into the business. Again, other partners within the business, we're all very hands-on. They probably put, you know, 5 hours each into the business as well at the moment. During the initial sort of conception and the early days of coming to market, you know, I'd probably say that there was more like 10 to 20, maybe even 30 hours a week of my own time going into things like the website build and starting outreach and approaching people to try and get some brand exposure and various PR activity. So it can vary, but yeah, like I say, the early days, there was quite a substantial amount of time that, alongside my primary business, I was putting into VASO to get things done that needed to be done.
That's really interesting though, because you've got there's four of you in total, is that right? Or five?
Yes, four, yeah.
Four. Does that mean that you kind of get to split the work, so you're all working a little less because you have each other? Does that mean that would be kind of vital to have co-founders if you want to have a successful side hustle, because you can't put in 50 hours a week, not over and over and over and over again, without burning out?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the chance that you are able to start something in your own time. Going back to one of my early ones, with the retro consoles, you know, that was all my own time. But it has helped me, and probably helped the business quite a lot, having co-founders that are all able to put their own time into developing various bits and pieces that needed to be done. You know, and it does. So one of the co-founders will primarily manage the accounts. So if I had to do that on top of, you know, the 5 to 10 hours a week that I put in myself, you could be looking at an additional 2 to 5 hours there. So yes, it does help alleviate some of the strains for a business, having co-founders that are able to take off some of that workload.
Because it's important to remember that you've only actually been doing this for under a year. This is still a baby startup. It's not reached a point where it can kind of stand on its own 2 feet and you can start automating processes. That's all kind of down the line, right? What are the next steps you'd love to take with VASO as it becomes a bigger, more established business?
Yeah, I mean, the fulfillment side of things is something that we really would like to have some level of automation. So whether it's fulfilled by Amazon, that's a great service that's out there. At the moment, we don't want to do that because of the additional amount that's going to eat into the profit margins. But we've built into the pricing the ability to soak up that cost. But at the minute, it's manageable for us to use our own time at these early stages. We're doing it ourselves. But hopefully within the next 12 months, that's definitely something that we want to outsource and alleviate from what we have to do. In terms of automation to a lot of the web side of things, I sort of built that in from the outset just because it's kind of in my nature just to do things in that way.
What kind of automation? If someone places an order, they get an immediate email back saying thank you. What kind of automation did you build in from the outset?
Yeah, so that's a great example. So lots of the email marketing side of things, I've got automated processes for firing off related products. So if a consumer purchases a pack of glass straws that hasn't purchased before, I've got an automation that will then email that customer an email relating to the travel cases. So setting up that automation early on saves me the time of doing a manual email marketing blast that would potentially fall to customers where they may have already purchased a particular product. So setting up that automation again from the outset has saved me time in the long run, and is something that will just continue to work and grow the profit per customer for the lifetime of us running this business.
Matt, you've been absolutely amazing. You've given so much great advice, and I think anyone in the first year of business could take at least 10 or 15 things away from this chat. So thank you so much.
No problem.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button. Go on. And comment below to let us know what you thought. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe. And don't forget you can find the show notes and all kinds of other useful content over at sage.com/podcast. Thanks again for watching, and if you want more, check out the next episode with entrepreneurial legend Saha Hashimi, who turned tea-guzzling Brits into latte lovers. It's a good one.